Hi, this is Barry with Barry's Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how I built this wooden router plane. Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to Derek Cohen, who hosts the website inthewoodshop.com. He has a bunch of great projects, including homemade shop tools, and he has a router plane that was an inspiration for this. So check out his website, inthewoodshop.com. A router plane is basically three parts. It's a block of wood cut to shape, it's a cutting blade, and a mechanism for holding it together. For mine, I used pallet wood for the block, I used an Allen key for the cutting edge, and I used an eye bolt for the hardware store to hold it together. So here I took some pallet wood and cut some pieces roughly to length, used the hand plane to level off the surfaces, and laminated the pieces together. Not sure exactly what kind of wood this is, but it sure looks a lot like oak. So after the glue was dried, I just marked the layout on the face of the boards so that I can cut and drill it to the appropriate dimensions. The large circle is 2 inches in diameter and the smaller ones are 3/4. I drilled the holes first at the drill press using Forstner bits. Probably could have gotten away with a little bit smaller hole for the big one. I used a handsaw to cut away the excess before I started bringing the block to the final shape. And I've got some really low quality rasps that I used and a spoke shave. And then I finally gave in and took it over to the oscillating sander. There were some places that I couldn't get to, so I just cleaned those up with a chisel. I just use a paring technique. Then I used my number 4 hand plane to put a kind of an arc on the top of it and to lower that front edge. The idea is the front of the plane sits lower and that gives more access to the eye bolt, but yet allows the handles to be a little bit taller. And I used a file to round over the edges. At this point, I've got the body shaped out. I just need to make the hole for the eye bolt and also a channel to hold the blade. This is a little bit tricky because you're chiseling in a recess that's kind of hard to get to, but I was able to do it with a couple of different chisels. And there the eye bolt is in the little slot. And I'm just using a wing nut to hold it in place. The blade I'm using is 1/4 inch, so I used a 1/4 inch chisel as a guide to mark it and to make that little groove. So now I've got the body done and the holding mechanism. I just need to make the blade, and I'm doing that at the bench grinder and dipping as much as I can to try to preserve the temper of the blade, which I don't think actually worked. This is a 1000 grit Norton stone, and that's a 4000. That's usually as far as I go for chisels and plane blades. So here it is all together. I just do a little test cut and see how it works. Unfortunately, at this point I realized that the eye bolt, since it wasn't welded, was flexing too much and I wasn't really getting a good hold on the blade. It was kind of working, so I decided to weld the eye bolt. And since it's stainless eye bolt, I used a stainless filler rod. And this is the before and after. And now the eye bolt does a much better job of holding the blade. Okay, at this point I've got a working router plane. I really like the wood body, it feels nice and comfortable. The eye bolt's holding the blade in place just fine. I'm not real thrilled with the blade. This 1/4 inch Allen key I think I got, it's one of those throwaway ones that came with some kid's toy or something. And I don't think it's that great a metal, and I ended up having to file it so thin, it's not very rigid, and it's really hard to get an edge. I think this is just the wrong choice. So I went ahead and ordered this. This is a 1/4 inch router plane blade from Veritas, and it fits right in here. I may have to clean up the little groove because it's slightly a different angle. Instead of hex, it's got 4 sides on it. But this thing cuts so much better. I mean, it was ready to go right out of the box, but it's much more rigid. It sits in there straight, and it's just so much more effective as a router plane. So although you might be able to make it work with an Allen key ground down, it wasn't worth it to me. So I'm very happy that I got this replacement blade, and I'll show you how that works. So here I'm trying to cut with the Allen blade, and because it's so thin, what it's doing is pulling down into the wood instead of lifting up the fibers. It takes a lot of effort. It's quite frustrating. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that out and use the blade from Veritas instead. And this just lifts the fibers right up, pulls them out much better. You still have to get the depth right to get a good clean surface, but it works really well. And this wood is just some unknown hardwood from a pallet that I found. So I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the section below. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and click that like button. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.